how are
bright,
you?
shining, smiley faces staring back at me. My name's Abby Tobner. I'm one of the community organizers along with Camille, Brian, other Brian, and Matt Cordio. So is anyone new here this week? Cool, so we're all veterans. So 1 Million Cups, we gather here every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. to hear from a new startup. Today we'll be hearing from Breyk. We've got Leo and Daniel. You guys might recognize Leo. He presented UBrew a few weeks ago. And now they'll be talking about Breyk and how we can all get incentivized to take a little break from our cell phones. Thank you to Jake from One Page Accounting, as always, every week for our coffee. Wouldn't be able to get through our Wednesdays without you, so thanks so much for that. We have a couple announcements at the end that I'll wait until you guys are done. So, you guys want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I apologize. I just ended up being sick not too long ago, like everybody else in this town. So, if you hear a cough to interrupt, just go with it. Yeah, no, I'm not sick anymore. So we're Breyk, like Ali mentioned. Thank you for the introduction. We're here to introduce a concept that we've been working just for a couple of months, so we're very early stages on how to drive our behavior and take a break from your phones, and we're gonna talk about that. But first, just the team. I'll introduce us already. Daniel de la Concha and myself. Daniel is an electrical engineer by training and a development engineer by day, and I'm a mechanical and aerospace engineer by background, and I'm one of the co-founders with UBrew. So what's our reality today? Here's the problem that we see, and that I'm pretty sure, I'm almost certain that you all seen already. Our reality right now, it's things about like how we use our phone, the phone usage right now. We see that in problems like, and we probably have established judgment already, like when we see next to a table that's doing this, a couple that is on their cell phones not talking to each other. So we've seen that problem. We've seen it right now in the general pop culture. This is a screenshot from How I Met Your Mother, the show, and you see the concept that it's already out there in 2005, which it's incredible to think that was just 2005. We'll be out with friends, with family, and we'll be talking to each other. Nowadays, this is our reality that started not too long ago, and that it keeps getting worse. We're always on our cell phones, we're not having conversations, we're not enjoying each other's companies, and it's becoming more of a problem that we see it. We probably, some of you have seen this as an area, and that actually was not too long ago in the news. A couple of sorority girls that were at a baseball game, they were in the big screen for a long time. They were talking about them, how they were on their phones, Snapchatting, tweeting, taking selfies, and they were not aware of the game at all. So, and also we see this one as well, that came out not too long ago. Everybody watching a marathon, and they were in the cell phones taking pictures and video, which is great. I think it's great, but a lot of those individuals are missing the point of what this lady is doing, just enjoying the moment, enjoying the actual marathon at that point. So we get the picture, and we've seen this problem pop up in different social media, in the news. Good Morning America has referred to it a lot. We've seen probably in health news about the whole smartphone neck that it's coming out, that is becoming a true problem. So we're becoming from being erect to being like this. So the problem is real, and we're hoping that with Breyk, we can drive our behavior to help this problem. So what is Breyk? Breyk is a mobile app. It's a mobile app that it's gonna help this problem through challenges or peer-to-peer challenges that people are gonna generate to one another or a group. And they're gonna send this challenge with a specified amount of time that they want their peers to not use their phone, so they can lock it, put it away, and win that challenge. Or if they don't lock it, they will lose that challenge. So all these challenges will be done through fun type of challenges that they can drive that behavior to put away your phone and enjoy each other's company, or and different levels that we're going to be talking about. So here, first of all, before I start this, we created a very rudimentary demo. I mean the demo video, because the actual app, it's great. Daniel has been programming hard on it. So we're gonna show you a little basic concept of what the challenge is. It's very basic, so I'm sure you'll understand it, but the one thing about this is that this is an app that we already have on our phones, and there's a small pool of testers that are going through it right now, through this MVP. It's just a basic MVP. So we have it, so if you wanna see it at the end of the presentation, you can go through it. But I can walk you through the basic challenge generation. So this is Daniel's phone, and this is my phone. So Daniel opens up the app, and he sees his contacts on the left-hand side. Sorry if it's hard to see. He clicks on me. He finds a specific challenge, a predefined or a custom challenge that he can send me. In this case, he wanted me to do a house chore for some reason. And then the break time is 30 minutes. So he sends it. I get the notification that Daniel has sent me a new break. I open the app, and I will be going to my break screen, which is in this case here, and I have it right there. So I see that I have a pending challenge from Daniel. I open the pending challenge, and I can see the specifications, the type of challenge and everything, and all he's telling me is just lock your phone. So you hit the lock button, which obviously in iPhone you know is in the right hand side. I lock it, but I cannot wait the urge. It tells me that my 30 minutes has started, but I go ahead and unlock it in this case. And since I unlocked it, it's gonna tell me that I lost that challenge. So since I lost that challenge, then it's gonna go check, and he gets a notification as well, but since he has the app open, he just goes and sees that Leo has lost that challenge, so now I have to do that, and I can see it in my break screen what my pending challenges are since I lost that 30-minute challenge. So basic peer-to-peer challenges. Obviously, we're starting just with basic challenges that are like, do a house chore, buy me a beer, and clean the house between couples, families, things like that, that they can sit down at the dinner table, they can send a break to their children and say like, put your phone away for the next hour for dinner. If not, you have to do this. So you can send those out through the app, and you have all your contacts. The type of login, right now, the way that we have it is basic, like kind of like WhatsApp using your phone, but obviously we're looking into all the additional logins through Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But at this point, this is the basics of it. Obviously, we want to extrapolate the type of challenges, and that's where the key of how we take those different stages. And Daniel's going to talk about those stages in terms of how we go from just basic challenges like that maybe are not as accountable to maybe challenges that is like, I'm going to challenge you to put your phone away, or $5 will be donated to a charity from your account. So you will put your PayPal account, and that will make it more accountable. Yeah, I have a question.
Where's the money in here? What do they charge?
Well, we don't have it at that stage yet, but that's what we're thinking, and then we'll talk about those things. I'm just kind of giving a little sneak peek into what we're thinking in terms of that, because at the end of the day, it's creating that accountability piece, and some of our competitors that are out there right now is more of a self-regulation than this peer-to-peer challenge. Yeah, okay, so now Daniel's gonna be talking about the target market. I kind of screwed up here, sorry Daniel. There you go.
Thanks. Right, so you just saw the demo, so I want to give you a couple of seconds so that you can think of someone that you think might use their phone a lot, or if you want to do some self-reflection, you can also maybe self-identify you. So I'll give it a couple of seconds. Okay, so I see some smiles out there. So now, I'm sure you probably have a friend, a family, or maybe a significant other. So this is an app that could be really used by you. Currently, about 64% of the adults in the US have a smartphone. We think that this app is something that will work really well with families, couples, students, and basically anyone that has a smartphone addiction. There's a recent research by the Pew Research Center that found out that out of the people that have a smartphone, there's a really high percentage of people that actually have feelings of being distracted or frustration. And I think this is where an app like Breyk can really fit in. To talk to you a little bit about the competition, let me share a little bit of what's out there. The first app out there is called Forest. I don't know if anyone's known about it, but it's an app that's really a lot about self-regulation. The way it works out is that you select actually a time that you don't want to use your phone. You start it, and in exchange, you grow a virtual tree. Eventually, if you take enough breaks, you will have a forest in this virtual tree, and then you can move on to the next day. I think this app kind of shows that there's well, this app actually came out in 2014. It's had since about 20 updates so far, so it's very live. About 300 or 400 reviews in the App Store. So I think this app proves out that there's really a need and a desire for people to self-regulate, or stop using their phone. But it does lack. It's completely self-regulated. It's all up to you, and you basically do it on your own time, and not necessarily when maybe you're having dinner with someone that's you want to have a conversation with, or you just want to disconnect from technology. The next app out there is called Pocket Points. This app is really targeted towards students, and the way it works is when a student is in a classroom, they select it, they again put their phone to sleep, and they get credits that they can later use at a fast food joint or something like that. I think again this kind of helps support that there's definitely a need, and there's definitely places that are willing to kind of pay for users or give credits towards not using their phone. The issue with this app is, again, it's really targeted towards students, so only students can do it. It came in 2014, and it's slowly growing to different colleges. It's kind of, it's only available in certain colleges. And it's a little bit of, again, that's self-regulation. You really have to think, oh, I'm gonna wear it right now, I need it, and it's kind of on your own. The third, it's a little bit different. It doesn't really talk about using your phone, but it's called Challenge. And the way that this one works is you basically post a video with a challenge, and then someone else can go and reply back. It's a little bit different, but it's the closest we could find of so having someone challenge someone. Again, it's got a good following. Several people have used it, and it does have an additional feature that's a bit more social, and it's something that we think that we can also incorporate into Breyk. So the next part I want to talk to you is a little bit about the roadmap. How do we think we're gonna go on towards this? So the first stage is really we want to increase the user base. Have this available, friends, families, get them to use, get them to enjoy life a little bit more, get them to enjoy dinners or family events. The next stage is we really actually partnering with maybe establishments. In this case, you could think about examples of bars or restaurants that might be willing to ask their patrons to, hey, put up your phone, and maybe we'll give you a free appetizer, or maybe we'll give you a free appetizer next time you come, and then you can have a little bit of that recurring users. The third part would be maybe going towards larger corporations. So an example that I kind of like would be, let's say that we partner with Target, and Target wants to send out like a family day. Let's say it's Father's Day, something like this. So they can send out a break for people who are interested. Say, do not use your phone in the morning when it's probably when you're with your kids, and then, hey, later on you can come to the store and you can get $10 off. This could also apply to maybe things like events, concerts, things like that, when the user might rather have their people visiting, being more engaged with them than on their phone. And finally, as Leo mentioned in the future, we did do a survey. We did find that some people were interested in maybe having that monetary exchange. So we would look at something that maybe they're linked to something like PayPal or another event, or even donated towards a nonprofit. We could start getting something like that. So how do we think about making money? The first one would be the consumer. This would be, again, from the survey, with some people were willing to kind of exchange money. So in this case, maybe we could have a fee per transaction, or maybe an interest, or if it's a donation towards a nonprofit, maybe we have a fee per service. This is something that we would, of course, investigate, see, kind of get what that feedback is on it, and we could go either way. The next one would be the establishment. So I mentioned we could have a recurring service for those restaurants that kind of have something going on, and as well as a one-time pay-as-you-use. So for here, my best example would be, let's say a restaurant wants to have like a Valentine's Day special. Don't use your phone while you're here. Put it off for an hour, and next time you come, you get a free appetizer. So again, it's a good way to kind of get the users there to really put their phones down. I would probably maybe not recommend it on a first date, but maybe after that you can kind of come back. Finally, would be the corporation. So I mentioned the example of Target having something recurring, as well as maybe a one-time per event. Let's say if it's a comedian that wants to come. Actually, recently, I don't know if someone in the news or some comedians are trying to create this pouch where you would not use your phone. So it could be something where the exchange would be, let's say, for added features or added content that they could not know. If it's maybe a concert that says, hey, I really don't want people to use their phone, some will. But if you don't use it, you get a free track at the end of the concert. So you could really start engaging with the community in ways like that. All right. So this is really kind of all we have. So we are really interested in kind of knowing your feedback. We've been working at it for a couple of months. If anyone has any contacts, we would love to kind of check that out with establishments or restaurants or corporations that would be interested in kind of having something like this. We're also looking to maybe some mentorship, having someone that we could kind of bounce our ideas out, see how things work. Especially, it'd be great if they have some of the app development experience, ad revenue models. How can we really implement that? For a developer, currently we'll be doing this ourselves, but I think eventually we might need that extra hand that would come healthy if we want to accelerate that process. And we're in our early stages too, so any funding would definitely be appreciated. And there's our email if you want to contact us after this meeting. And thank you.
Are you able to monitor this, say, okay, a corporation says, okay, they have all their employees sign up on your stuff, and that the employees are told that if they don't use their cell phones for such a period of time, they get a day off.
Mm-hmm.
Can you monitor it that close?
Yeah, because when a break is sent, you either accept it or reject it. So you have that option. And once you accept it, we know if you broke it, if you lost or won. So you could very easily right away know what the status is of the people. So someone could have accepted it, say, I'm actually going to do this. Something came up. Actually, it's quite interesting. It's kind of hard. You do it so automatically. It's kind of hard to not unlock your phone suddenly and you break. So we immediately know who makes it or who doesn't make it, who can go through the break successfully or not.
How do you know that?
Well, so the way it works right now is when a break is sent, you locally accept it and you start a timer. If you get back into your phone before the timer goes in, then we change the status and we update our web server, your backend, say this user used their phone before the break was due, before the timer was due. So then you know the status of each of where they are.
It's really hard not to use it. As a tester, because especially now with the fingerprint, if you check something, you unlock it immediately, you lose the challenge.
Yeah.
Well, what about how do you measure or establish when a user accepts? So I can make a break. You have to accept it within 5 minutes.
Correct.
Or can it sit there for an hour and I can okay, I'm going to bed, so I'm going to accept this break now.
So our idea that this timers will be they will have a due time. You can only accept it within a time range. And again, that's because if you're gonna do it to someone, you're probably with them at that time, right? You want to, hey, I want to have dinner with you. I want you to stop using that phone. So if I'm gonna give you, let's say, a really nice challenge, if you win, I want you to accept it at that moment and not 2 hours later. So yes, it would have a time limit.
Yeah, I mean the idea is that mostly you're present with them. Obviously, you cannot really detect that unless you do it through GPS or anything like that. But I mean, we're not gonna hold you off to send a break from your house to your friend Bob and across town. He'll see it, but he's like, I'm not gonna take it. But obviously, we're thinking of ways to mitigate that in the future.
Let's go with
one there first.
I'll let you pick.
Yeah.
Is there a way, I'm just thinking because if I get alerts, I'm gonna be so tempted, and what if it's an important alert, whatever. Is there a way to get extra points if you put it into, if it forces it into airplane mode or do not disturb mode? So I'm not even getting alerts during the challenge?
We could actually, I hadn't thought about that. We could probably do something like that. Our interest would be you still have the alerts and it makes it a bit of a more challenge.
Right.
In a way, so yeah, I think that's definitely, I hadn't not thought, but yeah, we could probably.
I mean, I would never win.
The catch, the catch there is.
Unless it did that, there's just no way.
Yeah, the catch there would be probably, I think iOS might not permit us to know if it's in airplane mode or not, but I think it's something we could definitely do some research on.
Something to make it force into an extra security or something.
Yeah. And I think that's also kind of what makes it challenging too. I mean, well, that's,
so screwed every
yeah.
Yeah. It's addiction without temptation, right?
Yeah.
So the kind of thing that Jake was talking about, which is more corporate or whatever, it's not peer-to-peer then. a certain sense, you might want to schedule a whole bunch of people
Yeah.
getting a challenge for a meeting or something like
Correct.
that before doing it, right?
Yeah, and that's something that when we're looking at corporations, again, this breaks, we could send them peer-to-peer, but someone that's a larger corporation or a restaurant, I mean, we have the access to, say, anyone that's within one location, for example. We could send a targeted break to them.
Yeah, so one thing, so Daniel mostly showcased the partnership aspect, like with a corporation like Target, but the other aspect that we're thinking too is how do we embed ourselves in a corporation from the perspective, like, for example, businesses, Salesforce, they have meetings, Salesforce meetings and everything. They can send breaks to a predefined group that everybody gets it. They have to put their cell phone. It's really hard for a sales guy to put their cell phone down, but it's also very important that they engage in whatever seminar, training, or Salesforce meeting that they are at. So I know that in those scenarios will be really great. I mean, they can not win the challenge because they really have to go and attend something, but at the same time, it creates the dissipation of all that extra noise that they always pay attention to during those things. So.
Well, and in that scenario, you're getting way more users at a time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So there could be 100 new users in 1 minute. So that corporation's angle is a big deal, I think.
Yeah, we really think so at this point. I mean, we, in our survey, like, it's kind of skewed on what people think in that scenario, but I think since we've only been a couple of months on this, we want people to understand the concept of those challenges in a basic scenario or in an everyday scenario. But the corporation piece, I think we could go a long way in terms of, like, we see the problem these days. I mean, we've seen it in our own jobs when we're in corporate America, but so definitely has potential there.
So, thinking about motivation research, people tend to be motivated by internal rather than external over time. External motivations tend to reduce the willingness to participate and engage, whereas internal motivation can help people, to feel committed. And I'm wondering if the way that this works is that there's all this external reinforcement coming in. You have to get something to do it, right? If in fact it's not going to have the positive effect you want. Now you may just want to make money on it, then that may not, but I sense you have a motivation to really, have this social effect as well. Are you planning on including other kinds of, I guess you call them ads, or motivational, any kind of material about why you should stop using your phone around your kids, or, take a break and give your kids a break, kind of thing, or at work, why it improves quality of life and work. So the social messaging, I guess, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think it's crucial that we do that because that will be our marketing in some way, our initial marketing to that initial stage, especially to embed this app into people using it just for challenges that technically they won't do. So there is not an accountability piece like it would be in a corporation setting, or it would be if you actually have money involved. So I agree with that. So that initial stage, I think that's all we have to do. It's continue to portray examples of why it's good to have that family time. Therefore, use our app to maybe incentivize, not necessarily create a direct motivation or a forceful motivation, but incentivize that great habit of putting your phone down during those scenarios that you can enjoy with one another. You can enjoy that. You can just be with that person at that point, or be with that group at that point. So our initial stage, I think it's going to be based all on that, on just generating and backing on data that we see that is creating that negative aspect, or is that portraying how negative it is to always us be on our phones without paying attention. And then once they know that, then here is Breyk. It's going to help you drive that behavior, not just for you, but to others around you. So,
Since you're picking the challenges going in on the initiating side, you know what it is that it's being done for. So this reinforcement could be more than just you've got a challenge. You could, for more intrinsic thing, your kids are going to enjoy if it's, spend time with the family, your kids are gonna enjoy having your undivided attention, or this marketing messaging could be in what the challenge that's received as well.
Yeah,
But
that's
you
where
know
we
what
really
challenge
can get
you're giving.
creative.
Yeah.
And that's when we think like maybe families would be good. Like, once people have teenagers, say, hey, whoever, we're gonna have dinner, put your phones down for an hour, and then whoever gets to do the dishes. Very easily, everyone goes in, and maybe between kids they'll try to, hey, can you give me the score or something? Kind of make it fun out of it, but again, putting their phones down, and at the end they have a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it could be something maybe recurring. Like we could maybe add it later a feature. Say, okay, from Monday to Friday, every day at 6, phone down. Whoever takes it out takes the trash out, or something like that. So I think that's where we can kind of do something about that.
I think that's exactly what I wanted to ask about. I think one of your largest audiences is going to be parents. Because parents look at their kids, especially the teenagers, and wonder, where's this heading? I would recommend, if there is a way that you could maybe partner with a local high school or something, and just do a group, session with some kids and say, what would it take for you, the teenagers, to switch off your phone at 9 p.m. And go into airplane mode until 6 a.m.?
Yeah.
What would it take you to do that? And then accordingly, start building things that parents can send to their kids. Because it is an addiction. It's very similar to drug addiction. So I think the parents are the biggest market that you can go to, because there's very few parents around the world that are not worried about this thing.
Correct.
And in that case, you're gonna have to build in a positive reinforcement instead of a negative reinforcement. If you do this, you get such and such instead of a punishment. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
So
correct.
there's gotta be a little bit of both ways.
I think we have you first.
Can you, private label, white label, whatever you want to call it, for corporations and families, and so that they get it set up, that they have some control of it, that they can send the messages out to them. Now we'd like you to set off for this day, and this is your challenge, to stay off, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think we can definitely do that. I mean, that's something that if it's the embedded version, like here is Breyk, so you can use for your meetings, your seminars, your conferences. Definitely make it a white label.
I can see them paying, families and corporations paying for that capability. Otherwise, is there a privacy concern that if you can tag what they're making the calls or not making calls, are you infringing on any privacy there?
Well, the way it works, we're not really, we try to stay away from that. We're not really looking what they're doing. It's just, you accepted a challenge, you have your phone. If you unlock it, that's it. That's the only thing we know. There's everything else, whatever you did, was it because of a phone and text? There's no involvement in that. It's completely separate. We just know that you used it.
We're just driving the behavior. There is no restriction of calls or anything like that.
Exactly.
You make the choice of putting it away and win that challenge, or not put it away and continue your everyday uses.
Yeah.
I think you have to do first.
I know it's a little bit outside of the primary use case, but would you have it set up so you could set challenges for yourself?
So that's a good question.
I mean, because like if I'm a forest user
Mhm.
and I see this is cool, well, why can't I just have that within this and I can do both?
That's definitely a possibility. I mean, that's a great point in terms of taking their market share. But the only thing that we saw with that, I mean, I think it should be an option, because there is definitely users for those apps. So those users are definitely doing the conscious effect and beating themselves in the back to basically get themselves better at not using their phone. So they're definitely doing it. So I think that's a great option to still have in there. So have a contact for yourself.
Some parents or families would almost want the reverse of the sort of the concept in terms of, I want my child to have 30 minutes 3 times a day of phone access. Other than that, it's locked.
Mhm.
Would the app, or would you ever envision it being used in reverse like that, saying, say, 100% lockout with only certain amounts, certain windows for access versus a one-time challenge or something? That's something, like on a rolling basis. You know what I mean?
So limitation there is more of a technology limitation. So Apple's very, for example, you could probably do that on Android. and I think there's already an app that kind of blocks you. On iOS, Apple does not like you playing with other system settings.
And that goes back to a little bit about the question about secure infringement. Like that feature could be used differently, not just between parents, and the whole idea is to keep it a positive reinforcement. So at the end of the day, we don't want to completely restrict a certain area. Just do the positive reinforcement to drive the behavior towards that goal. So, and I think you were first. Yeah, sorry.
Can you, as a parent, can you, in the future, could you set something up where, okay, you can watch one Netflix movie if you have your phone off for 10 hours or some such thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges there was like you give TV rights for a day, for example. So you
But I
could.
mean, could you set it up so they're, not so that the parent would have to decide, they became automatic on their phone if they wanted to watch something on their phone? So you could do that in the future also.
No, because that goes back to the same aspect of restricting a feature on the phone, and that's more of a. It could be done possibly in Android, but in iOS it wouldn't be able to, because Apple is very restrictive of just limiting the features.
Okay, so you could give them something though, they could bring it to you and they can say, see, Dad, I did this.
Yeah, but you couldn't. Yeah.
They just have more of a choice of taking it or.
Yeah.
In terms of thinking about the fact that it's an addiction, probably is, Ophir put forth, and that it's about self-motivation, what about reframing this whole thing as a health issue? Okay, and people are doing their Fitbits and their Apple Watches and all the rest of it, so that you're actually training yourself and getting measurements that fit into your health profile of how often you keep this thing off and locked.
Yeah, that's
just in general.
That's a great question. I mean, some of the initial research that we did, it was just pulling out what's the media saying out there about health issues, and one of the articles that popped out in the presentation was from health.com around how this is becoming an issue, not just from the perspective or the social interaction, but also from the perspective of just physically how it's affecting you to be constantly on your phone. So that definitely could be reframed in terms of like maybe giving data out and saying like, you have accepted this many breaks for this many hours, and it has helped you keep your neck up for the rest of your life.
I think we would probably still keep the social aspect of maybe you still have a partner to you. So I think again, we were treating it as an addiction. If you have something supporting you, it's probably better than you do it by yourself.
Oh, I get it.
So
I get it.
yes. So
and we discussed the aspect like at a station which we can partner, whether it's with the health app that already is there and that it will have an additional feature in terms of phone usage, then it will be a measurable task that now you're doing as well. So in conjunction with the health app.
Just piggybacking on that with what I was saying about kind of a self-challenge, you could, rather than somebody challenging you and reporting back, you can do a self-challenge that reports to somebody else.
Yeah.
Rather than a tree growing, which is the same as a graph except different.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now you're part of your own health profile, and oh goodness, I spent 5 15-minute segments today not looking at my phone or something like that. That you're tracking it. It's part of your health record, so to speak.
Ali for
Once you're out of beta, how do you plan on getting your initial users downloading the app? And then how do you plan to keep them engaged rather than trying it once and forgetting that it's on their desktop?
Yeah, I think at this point, let's start. I think at this point, right now we're having a small pool of users without putting it on the App Store, because that's when it starts charging you. Just to do the basic aspect of it, and then how they can keep engaged, because honestly that's our biggest worry, just to keep engaged in that aspect. But I think doing it in that stage approach in which we do this to get that initial caption, but then when we involve things like the venues, doing incentives around it. I know we're looking a lot we're starting to look a lot at the Foursquare model when it started, that they definitely ramped up well in terms of looking for establishments. You checked in this place and they gave you free apps. And I remember that I used it a lot just for that purpose at the beginning, then it kind of died down and just mostly now used as just a pool of reviews, kind of like Yelp. So we want to maybe model that aspect of what Foursquare did at first at the following stage, that then it's going to keep engaged the people that were already in those settings. because that will then drive the portion of like group settings in a dinner table, in a public place, in a specific venue, in which people are going to keep challenging her, and now they get the influence of that venue, creating some type of incentive.
So it's also good to remember though, because Foursquare didn't charge for their app initially, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So you kind of have the chicken and the egg problem, because in order to get these bigger companies on board with offering incentives to people, you need to have a critical mass on your platform first. So I don't know if you've explored other revenue models with maybe like a freemium model and you start charging for other things later on the consumer side, or I'm not sure like what specifically Foursquare's model is, but maybe you're monetizing on more of the company side once you do have that critical mass. But I would just think about playing around with different revenue models and trying to figure out what would be best in order to get the most eyeballs on your app and most users and engagement.
Absolutely, yeah, no, thank you for that feedback.
Since you're using push notifications, and you also potentially can now tell whether there are other Breyk users nearby, you could also inform people, oh, would you like to take a break when they're in the vicinity of each other, or some other things to get more of the support group thing going as well, right?
Good point.
Good, Camille, I got a follow-up on that.
Yeah, I was thinking about what Brian was talking about, and it seems as though some kind of dashboard of successes or failures, or some combination thereof, would be useful, and tying that to information about what's been accomplished by their successes. But I think in having a dashboard of results, you can really push this internal thing. You know, when you want to do it yourself, challenge yourself. You know, that you're growing a picture, you know, you're filling the funnel, you're whatever, you know, of success, and I think that might be a positive thing for people, to be able to choose on their own.
Yeah.
Nobody has to pay me to get better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we definitely have different, like a platform, we're working in different areas, but our pillar is still going to be keeping the social aspect, keeping the peer-to-peer challenges, that's what's going to make the differentiator from not just the competitors, but also in terms of just, we always keep thinking we're just driving that behavior, we're not forcing, and then so we're trying to do that, and then everything else, it's going to hopefully fall into place in terms of like corporation, everything, do the same concept, but now adapted to what their needs are specifically.
I wonder if you could have some sort of like a location-based challenge, where you could leave a challenge for somebody, like at a restaurant or a bar or a particular place. You could leave a challenge behind, and that somebody else might pick it up from a total stranger. Because it's just in the system, it picks up, you're a Breyk user, you show up in this location. Hey, there's a challenge waiting here. It's kind of like geocaching.
Yeah. Since it's like customers, we did have the idea of, I mean, we would use a location for when it's a restaurant. So kind of like, well, you're at a restaurant and you say, okay, oh, they're offering a break. You would open it up and maybe see which ones are the ones close by. You would pick, okay, I'm actually at this restaurant. But we could actually add that, that additional thing. Oh, look, random, Joe left a random challenge. Let's see if we could do it, and maybe that way it's a way that they can connect later. Hey, this other person ended up doing. So it's an interesting idea.
Without posting the time, because if not, people will stay away from that thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're gonna have to not use the phone for an hour versus half an hour, so I'm gonna doing this one. So.
Yeah. But again, it would be what they're giving to you, right? Is it a free app versus something that we choose? But
I think one of the challenges that you're going to have is getting everyone in the group to have the app. So is there a web app version? Like if one person has it, wants to push it out to their friends that they're near, or they could get an SMS version that they click into, like a web app version of it, or at least an SMS link to download the app so that they can still send it to people around them.
Yeah. We don't have it right now, but ideally that would be the case, just to incentivize people. That's how you drive people to actually download the app eventually. If everybody has it, kind of like.
Because you have to have the app to be part of the challenge, right?
Correct.
Correct.
But ideally it would be a web version that they'll receive the notification, or not to receive the notification, but if they have it, because it'll be kind of like WhatsApp with their numbers, so they can technically receive something, and we have to figure that out, and then it will incentivize them to download the app at that point. So.
Last question. Anyone have the last one?
To add on to what Brian was saying, that sounds like challenge down on the park time to say, lock your phone for a half hour. You know, that track bench, you know, that sounds really fun. But my question is, one of the revenue model, there was a gym app that was out for smartphones that said every time you would check into the gym, you would get a cut of the money of everyone that didn't check in. It was a buy-in program. So it was kind of like the way you get the money, lose, and you go into the bank.
Yeah.
Could you apply something like that to yours?
Yeah, I don't see why not, actually. So definitely have to take note of it.
Monetary incentive.
That's actually, yeah.
Just in terms of like rack up pending challenges, maybe simulate something like that.
And to that point, I know like there's also maybe hotels too that want people to stop using their phone while they're on vacation, things like that. So maybe we could expand it to some other venues. That would be interesting. Yeah, that's it. Actually, it's a different way of approaching.
It's just iOS right now, right? Just for clarification, it's just iOS or is it also Android?
Right now it's just iOS, and it would just be a matter of refining the model good enough that we used to do it, instead of doing it twice.
And then the question that we always end with, what can the community do for you?
But actually, just because we know this community a little bit, if you have any context with developers or anything that we can start just having some conversations, especially app developers. Like Daniel mentioned, like we want to take it to a stage that we can do that, release one for that initial free version, but obviously at that stage we would like to bring more expertise to take this to the next level. So any context would be appreciated.
And now before we leave, I guess who thinks here that they will use it? You want to just raise your hands?
Try it.
Okay. So that's good, right? And I think that's it. Like
Well,
everyone knows someone that at least they would wish they would have that. And once they know that you have that tool, I feel like you want to use it more and more. It's like, oh, this worked out, let me use it again. And hey, it could even help relationships too.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you.